Hello YouTube, my name is Matthew, and today I want to talk about the continuity of self that we all generally experience, or at least people that don't have certain mental disorders experience. Now, of course, I'm reminded that I made a video not too long ago where I argued that the self is an illusion. But for the purposes of this video, let's assume that the self is real, or at least assume that the illusion is experientially or phenomenologically real. Did I just needlessly use a big word to make myself sound more intelligent? Probably, but that's okay. We're gonna glance over it and move on. And I was thinking about this because I've said to multiple people in the last several months that certain life experiences I had feel alien to me. They feel like they happened to a different person. I don't feel as connected with the Matthew of the past, especially at a certain cutoff point. It's almost as if a certain portion of my life was chapter 1, and that now I'm in chapter 2. But there is an assumption there. Sorry, the camera jiggled a little. There's an assumption there that there is a reason to divide those parts of my life. But at the same time, I'm not sure that assumption is warranted, because I'm actually beginning to think that, or I'm beginning to feel as if there is no difference. In other words, the me of 10 years ago, let's say, I'm 21 now, is really no different than the me now. I think about myself in elementary school, let's say, and obviously, like, people would say, well, you're a different person because you're much older, you've had more experiences. And I suppose that's true by definition. But I'm not sure there is much difference between elementary school Matthew and college Matthew. At some level, I still feel like that little kid. I still feel connected with him. I still feel like we have a great deal in common. I feel like we have more in common. There are more similarities than differences. There are more there's more that connects 21-year-old Matthew and 11-year-old Matthew than separates 11-year-old Matthew and 21-year-old Matthew. Did I say 10 and 11? I meant 11 and 21, pardon me. So this video is not really a treatise, like a very precise treatise on the self. None of my YouTube videos would ever be considered substantial treatises. But I don't know. I'm just not. I feel more connected with my past than I think I might have a little while ago. Why is that? I'm not sure I could say right now. I mean, I guess maybe, is that a sign of sort of emotional immaturity? Like, am I just kind of in a similar mindset then than I was now? Or am I in a similar mindset now than I was then? And you know, and now I'm just feeling like, oh, I'm kind of experiencing similar things or experiencing similar feelings. Similar is a hard word to say. I'm experiencing similar feelings, and therefore that's why I feel more connected. So is that, like, therefore a bad thing? Or on the other hand, would I say, well, no, Matthew, you're actually getting in touch with your childhood self, and that is actually a good thing, because that's a sign of growth. That's a sign of accepting, you know, your life up until now, and it was actually more of a sign of repression when you were distancing yourself from your kid self and saying that feels like a different person. And I don't know, I have a tendency to kind of talk about an issue and then present both sides of it and say, well, I don't know, and just end the video there, or end the conversation there, which is very aggravating and in some senses intellectually quite lazy. But with some of these issues, of course, there isn't necessarily a straightforward answer, or there isn't necessarily one answer. But yeah, I really don't think I've changed that much. I mean, I've grown. I have, like, I have a different life than I did when I was 11. Obviously, of course. There's no denying that. I mean, but in terms of who I am, in terms of who I feel myself to be, in terms of my identity, I think it's practically indistinguishable. It's only distinguishable from the perspective of age, and therefore experience. And I don't really know what that means, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, or I don't know if it doesn't matter at all. But maybe that will, maybe I will come to, maybe I will find out in time. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably going back, and I'm probably saying the same thing over and over again at this point. But I wanted to say something about it or I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I've actually been revisiting my past. I've been thinking a lot about the past as of late. For a while, I wasn't thinking that much about the past. I mean, my mind tends to focus on either the past or the future, which is not terribly healthy, but that's just my natural inclination, or at least that's kind of what the environment taught me, maybe. But I've really been examining my past at a deeper level than I think I did when I was experiencing it, when it was my present. And for about a year or 2 years, in between then and now, you know, the memories just are kind of flooding back, things I've never really been thinking about, or things I haven't thought about for so long, experiences, feelings I had. It's all just kind of flooding back, flooding back. It's all kind of flooding my mind. It's all coming back, Not sure what metaphor to use here. And that's probably why, and I wasn't going to say this, but I guess I'll go ahead and say it. That's probably why I'm working on an autobiographical novel right now. I mean, I kind of started that in the spring of 2020. Sorry, the summer of 2020, excuse me. I started this little project in the summer of 2020, and then I put it aside when school started up again. And then I have begun the project again. I'm actually beginning it from a different perspective. At some level, it feels like a slightly different project, because I'm not really writing about the same thing, but it's in the same vein. So maybe all the material will be connected into a cohesive whole eventually. But that might be a sign of my current inclination to think a lot about my past. Because I feel like I've led a certain life, which has led me to certain conclusions, and I feel like that the conclusions I've come to are worth sharing with the world, and I think I could very easily put it into the form of a novel. I don't know where that will lead. I have a tendency to begin and abandon novels. I've begun and abandoned probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 novels in my 21 years of existence. I didn't really start writing seriously till I was like 13 or so, 12 or 13. More like 13 or 14, I think. But maybe through this novel I'll think more about kind of the identity and continuity of self. I mean, at the very least, I think it can be helpful to examine one's past, especially when you are in a transitionary phase of life, as I am. So actually, the more I think about it, I think I do have a perspective on it, or I do have an opinion on it. I do think this is a feeling more connected with my childhood self is a sign of emotional growth and progress. And I think this kind of novel I'm working on is a sign of growth and progress as well. I think it's important. So, let me put it another way. It can be easy to kind of look at a kid and think, oh, what a stupid kid. Like, it's easy to look at kids and think, oh, ignorant, stupid, silly, ridiculous. Because, kids are inexperienced. Kids are really, very ignorant about the world around them, generally speaking. Or actually, no, that's not correct. Kids are not ignorant about the world around them, but kids lack experience. I'll say that. Kids lack experience. And so, obviously, kids don't behave in the same way that adults do. Because of that lack of experience. They experience a lot of things for the first time, and so they don't always know what to do or how to do it. So I think, in the past I've had a tendency, and maybe other people have a shared experience. I've had a tendency to kind of look at my child self and been like, oh, what a silly kid. What a ridiculous child I was. I'm ashamed that I was such a ridiculous child. But that's fundamentally, I would say, a bad kind of perspective, a bad way to think about your child self. I mean, because that was you. That's just a extension of yourself. Even if we assume you're a different person, you were that person at one point. And so if you dislike your childhood, if you dislike who you were as a child, well, then you probably dislike who you are now, and you're probably gonna dislike who you're gonna be in the future. So this is kind of just a long-winded way of me saying I'm beginning to respect and love who I was when I was a child, and that in turn is allowing me to gain a respect and love for who I am now, and a respect and love for who I'm going to be. And I think it's that perspective which is kind of leading me to say, well, I am basically the same person, or at least, or if we want to think about it as multiple people, it's, you know, there are multiple Matthews, but they're all still Matthew. They're all you know, me at 11 and me at 21 are just part of the totality of Matthew. They're just Matthew in different, they're just Matthew with a change in time and space. They're Matthew in a different time, and they're Matthew in a different space. But it's still Matthew. And in fact, if I may say so, I often have felt like, or I kind of feel like now, that certain positive qualities I have, or certain virtues I have, kind of stem from my certain kind of childhood aspects or attitudes that I haven't really given up on. Obviously you want to be as mature as, obviously you want to be mature as an adult, but I think when one matures, you can kind of forget certain positive aspects of what it means to be a child. And I think I've held on to those positive aspects. And I think that's led me to be the person I am today. And in that sense, I'm proud of who I am today. So, actually this video is much longer than I thought it was going to be, so I think I'll end it there. Thank you for watching, and take care.